FLOUTKAST kad košarka priča.
Dobar dan, večer ili jutro kada nas sve gledate, poštovani gledalci FLOUTKASTA. Nešto malo izmenjenom sastavu. Danas imamo zaista sjajnog gosta kome ću ja postaviti neka zaista važna pitanja. Pored mene je naš vođa, idejni, duhovni, kakav god, Mirko, koji će im pomagati u ovome svemu. Naravno da pozdravimo naše sponzore.
Da se zahvalimo prvo našim partnerima iz Život beta, gde sada možete uz registraciju dobiti 2000 dinara bonusa za kazino. A također možete dobiti 2000 dinara bonusa uz sportsko klađenje, tako da dole imate linkove i možete izabrati bonus uz registraciju koju želite da odaberete. Također da se zahvalimo i community mediji, na studiju, na produkciji, svemu što su nam omogućili.
Također, Život bet, naš partner, također daje 2000 dinara bonusa i za klađenje. Sve te informacije možete naći ispod na linku, postoje nekoliko opcija, pa izaberite šta vama odgovara. Današnji gost, our today's guest, in my honest opinion, one of the, if not the best pure shooter I have seen in my time of watching EuroLeague. Some of these games are absolutely insane shooting wise. So, one and only Billy Barron with us. Thank you very much again for your time.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yes. Considering that you retired relatively young in your career, and many believe you still had more to give, how difficult was to come to that decision to leave the game and open a new chapter?
Yeah, I think definitely the most difficult part about that is knowing I had a few years left in my mind to play. And I think I was at a level in my career that I'd always worked to get to. So physically, it was tough for me to overcome the things I was going through at that moment. And so that's been the most difficult part. I'm still trying to deal with it, honestly, as the competitor that I am, and watching these EuroLeague games and feeling that I should be, if healthy, I should be out there. So, it's tough to deal with because now you transition into a completely different lifestyle. You're not waking up every single day thinking about what time is practice at or how to prepare for a game. Your whole schedule basically changes. Your whole mindset changes. I'm trying to get used to it, but I'll admit it's definitely tougher than I thought it would be.
With that being said, is there any concrete plans, or are you putting yourself into something else, some other endeavors, and if so, what are they?
So I started my own agency. I have a passion behind this. Really, it's to add in the development and mentorship. Some of the stuff that I wish I had a little bit more in my career. I relied heavily on my older brother. Thankfully, I had one that played 11 years in Europe. Not many people have those type of influences that close to them in their lives. So, taking sort of my dad's coaching hat, I don't want to coach in college or coach in the NBA just because I know the lifestyle that comes with it. I have 3 young boys, and eventually when they get older, I'd love to be able to coach their team. So I thought this space was pretty unique. Being able to start my own business was something I'm very passionate about. And by adding in something that I don't think is that prevalent in the space, by being a former player, trying to relate to their journey using my own experiences, and then, doing little things like educating them on footwork, educating them on a pick and roll. And then, think about if I'm able to break down certain things, like break down a pick and roll with them, well, then I can spin that around and market and promote that to the next general manager or the next coach, right? So, everyone says they want to make the EuroLeague or they want to make the NBA, right? And it's like, what is our actual plan to get you there? Instead of me just standing on the sidelines and watching you play games and I'm clapping for you, let's actually put together a plan, and I'll help you with that. I'll get on the court with you. I'll break down that game film like I said that I would. Let's actually put together a game plan to get you there, because everyone else wants to do it. How are you going to differentiate yourself mentally and physically from everyone else? And that's where I come in.
That's a very unique path indeed, I would say. And how far into that are you? Has it launched yet? Are you actually doing it physically, or is it still in a thought process?
I'm physically doing it. I haven't publicly launched it yet. We have several clients around. I have a couple European kids that came here to prep school, particularly at IMG Academy here that's close by. have quite a few college players as well, and 3 guys in Europe right now. So it's growing slowly but surely. My end goal is to build a little facility. I wouldn't say little, I build a nice facility where I'm at to give my athletes a home base and then put a team of resources from a strength trainer to a biomechanist to mental coaches to myself to other shooting coaches around these type of players, right? And help guide them to their goals.
Great, great, and I wish you best of luck in that. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about your career, obviously. For us and for our watchers that are mostly from Serbia. Did you have any idea when you heard about Crvena Zvezda's offer and signing that contract? Have you had any idea what's about to happen? And what was the first thing that came to your mind when you actually agreed to join?
I remember when Milan Tomić first called me. I remember there was interest, and my season had just finished. And when my agency brought up that team name to me, obviously I knew all about Red Star. I wasn't like some of these other Americans that don't know any of these teams. Like I said, I had an older brother that played, so I'm well aware of who Red Star was, their fan base, how prideful they were. So my eyes lit up because I knew my brother was the one that said it. He said, if you could play there, you could play anywhere. And I always remembered him saying that. I'm like, all right, like let's do this. And I was extremely motivated. Like, I love the game so much. I really do. And my life was based around this game. And I know the lives of a lot of Serbians are based around this game as well, right? So there's a natural symmetry there between the way I thought and the way Serbians think. So I said, let's go to a place where basketball is number one. And my eyes lit up with the opportunity. There was no second thoughts at all when Milan called. I said, yeah, like let's do it. So that was probably the best decision for me in my career, looking back on it, to go there after being in Turkey.
We would agree too. With that being said, also, what were the best moments and probably the most difficult moments during that tenure in Red Star, and how hard was it to even leave the club when the time came?
I think the best moments and the most difficult moments actually were right around the same time. It was those Adriatic playoffs. During that first year, things went pretty smoothly as far as we won the Super Cup before the season. And then, yes, we lost in the Euro Cup playoffs, but we went 21-1 in the Adriatic League, if I'm not mistaken. So things had gone pretty smooth up to that point. There was a little bit of turbulence there in the Adriatic playoffs. Obviously, the first series with Partizan went 3 games, went to that last game, and so did same thing happened with Budućnost. Those were tough moments, but they're also, looking back on it, they're definitely the best moments. Moments that changed the path of my career as far as being able to get into the EuroLeague and being able, for me personally, to access the EuroLeague is something that I always wanted to do. And that was a really, really cool feeling, just winning it, sort of like the relief off your shoulders, right? And I know, like, ever since I arrived in Belgrade, that was the goal, was to win the Adriatic League. So to think about it every single day for 8 or 9 months, however long it was, and then to finally do it felt really, really relieving and felt good.
Also, so which teammates were your favorites during your time at Zvezda?
I had a really good connection with Stratos Paparego. Our families became pretty close. I would say Joe Regland that first year. I know where Joe grew up. We grew up not too far away from each other in America. So I always respected Joe because Joe wasn't a highly recruited player coming out of high school, right? And I knew who he was out of high school. And to think of how far he made it, I really respected his journey. And I respected the way he loved the game. He played extremely hard, and he was always very effective. You always knew what type of player you were going to get on the court. To think of other people, me and Branko had a really good relationship. He always had my back, and I always had his. I really respected the way he worked, how serious he was. There isn't really anyone that I didn't have a good connection with. That following year, me and Lorenzo became pretty close. Obviously, rest in peace, Michael Ojo.
Yes.
Great guy. Biggest human being I've ever shared a court with. I mean, biggest by far, biggest and strongest. So there was a lot of guys, but those are the names that really jump out.
Yeah. My colleague here also has a question. Can't see him due to our screening situation. But yeah, she question.
You started very well playing. First, your big match has been against Partizan and final at Cup. Do you remember this game? This is a very tough game when Partizan is wins with Jock Landil free throws. Do you remember this? And you have a very well game, I think 20 points.
You talk about the Cup game in Nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I remember that. That was that particular atmosphere was maybe my favorite to play in, because that's when you had both fan bases in the gym at the same time, and it was a small gym and it was very smoky. That was I love that atmosphere. I remember having my wife there courtside on the court, and being able to hit. I know I got hot there in the fourth quarter. I definitely regret that year and the following year not winning the Serbian Cup, just because I feel like in both games we were right there. I think my second year, if I'm not mistaken, we're up 5 with like 45 seconds or something, less than a minute to go. We gave that one away. That was tough. And then the year before, I definitely felt, I mean, Partizan, my second year was much better than they were the first year. I think it was Trincari did a much better job. I mean, he had a really, that second year, he had a really, really good team. I feel like the first team, we were just a little bit better than, I regret not being able to win that Serbian Cup, just because I feel like we had the momentum going our way, especially late in the game.
Yeah, in this next year, Kevin Punter made one foul close to the end of the game. And Marcus Page have 30 seconds, I think 9 points or something like this.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Back to the teammates. Do you keep in touch with any of your teammates, the guys that you mentioned, or no?
No, not really. Everyone's sort of got their own lives, moved on, whether it's other teams, other careers. I haven't talked to too many people, honestly. I talked to a couple people from the club every now and then. I love to stay engaged with the club. I know they weren't too happy with me with some of the games after. I hope to let them know I'm the same player no matter what. I mean, I have nothing but appreciation for the club and its fans. I absolutely, I transferred a couple schools in my college career, right? So a lot of guys who played 4 years back in the day always have a place and a home to go back to with college. I don't necessarily have that, so I always sort of looked at Red Star as kind of like my college, like the familiarity and the loyalty towards it. So I'm always watching them from afar. But as far as staying in touch with the teammates, not too many. It'd be probably a message here and there.
Right. And so yeah, that was going to be actually my next question. When you returned as a Milan player, I do vividly remember a situation where you weren't really welcomed that nicely due to you killing it, obviously. So how did that make you feel, man? Was that did you make you sad? Did you make you feel sad, or were you confused?
So it all started probably, the year after I left Red Star, my first year in Zenit, there was COVID, there was no one at the games. But my second year in Zenit, obviously we're playing in Pioneer, it was packed. I'm coming off the bench and we're already down I think we're down we're down 5 to 8 points in the first quarter. Place is going crazy, right? So I have to bring the energy. And I remember I made my first shot and I just started, it was nothing against anyone. I was just screaming. I was all right, trying to psych myself up, because I knew the type of energy that I needed to bring for us to win that game. And then I immediately got to the blues from that one, but it was nothing I wasn't saying to anyone. I was just really more so just talking to myself, sort of self pep talks. That second year, so when I returned the following year, obviously there were some mixed emotions there given the prior year. And I just remember a couple people had said some things to me during the game. I didn't really take it personally, although they were talking about, some things about my family and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
I kind of knew how the fans were. So again, I didn't take it that personally, but that's sort of where the gesture at the end to just, calm down. That's sort of where that came from. So I know the guy was in the background. If you see the picture, flipping me off with both hands. I mean, I don't mind that though. Like honestly, like I truthfully, like the player that I am, I love now being retired. Like those are the games I miss the most. Like I appreciate that stuff. I'm the type of guy that loves that. My dad always, my dad's from a very tough place in New York City. So understanding like from a very young child, like he used to preach to me the toughest conditions are the best conditions. Those are tough conditions. And then like those are the games that you got to step up the most.
Yeah.
And it was nothing ever personal. I love Red Star. I love Zvezda. I mean, I always feel like I will always have that loyalty towards them.
That's a very nice approach. If I was in your shoes, I would be really angry considering what I gave to that club, but you handled it better, obviously, than me. But a little bit about your play style. What I'm always curious is for guys to have like unique specialties such as you, like the cannon in your hand and great shot. When did you start styling or polishing your style of the play to become that and focusing on that? When did you realize your role, I guess, and the archetype of the player you want to be? Was that in college?
So after my second year, during my second year in Europe, I was playing for a Euro Cup team in Belgium, and that year it was a lot. It was a big year for me because I led the Euro Cup in scoring, right? But my brother was on the team as well. So think about this: after the games, my jersey is drenched in sweat. Like I'm exhausted. And I'm looking at him and I'm gassed. Back is hurting, everything's hurting me. And I'm playing 35 minutes a game, but I'm bringing the ball up every single time. I'm then getting my teammates involved. I'm then leading the team in scoring. I'm doing this, that. And I just remember a couple of times I slid off the ball that year. And I remember telling my brother, I'm like, yo, your job is so much easier than my job right now. And then I started thinking like, I started back in my second year in Europe. I was playing the point guard. I had that very high usage. I was leading the Euro Cup in scoring, so I knew I was doing well, but I was exhausted, and I slid off the ball a couple times that year, and I noticed that it was just so much easier. And I used to tell my brother who was on my team at that time, I'm like, man, playing the two is so much easier than playing the one. And I felt like after watching him my entire life, he was a true shooting guard. I've worked out with him, so I had already some of the footwork. I knew how to fly off of the screen and knock down those shots. That was very familiar to me. So the next year was my year in Spain was my first year truly off the ball. There was some growing pains there because my reads weren't great. But that next year in Turkey was really, really big for me. And I knew I had to find, in fact, my highest value was going to be playing both. And I knew I can come off of screens and get separation and knock down shots better than a lot of people in Europe. It was just a matter of also being able to play pick and rolls as well. And if you have to play point guard at times during the game, that's where my highest value was going to be at. And I was a very honest person with myself. And so I knew, like my dad used to fight me, he said, oh, you need to play point guard. And I'm like, no. Like this is one, like I'm not going to play that long in Europe if I keep playing this way because I'm exhausted. So when I got to Red Star, that was really my third year playing the shooting guard. And by then, I think the game started to really slow down. I understood how to read certain situations, where to put my eyes, while also being able to maintain being aggressive as a shooter. And I think that's the hardest part to teach guys, like doing what I'm doing now. I have a particular shooting guard, and it's going through reps with him on how to fly off of screens and being able to read a pocket pass and also knock down that shot at the same moment, right? And being able to consistently and efficiently make those reads. So, that's really where my play style evolved, changed and evolved.
Right. You did mention your brother. We did our due diligence, right? And we realized that he also was a great shooter. And I believe right now he's on the staff of either San Antonio or Austin Spurs. I'm not sure. But do you guys ever have these brotherly fights and battles? Who's a better shooter, and what's the verdict?
Of course, I think that's how we both pushed each other to get to where we got to in our careers. He's a shooting coach of San Antonio Spurs. They had a great win last night in the Cup, so they'll be playing in the championship on Tuesday. So he's a shooting coach of the Spurs. He's doing a heck of a job. He's one of the best, honestly. I mean, his form is perfect. It's very interesting. Our shooting styles are different, And you would have thought, hey, your dad taught you. No, he just rebounded. It was cool because me and my brother sort of reached the same conclusion, but we went two different ways of doing it. I added a lot of lift and I was more of a jump shooter. He was your standard set shot guy, type of guy, catch and shoots. He can fly off screens for sure. I'd probably say in an empty gym by ourselves, he would beat me more times than I would beat him. Just, you know, if you said you got to make 50, let's go around the arc. But I've always told him, I said, listen, like when you if we're playing a Pioneer, you got 10,000 people, you got defenses all over you. That's where I pride myself that I would knock down more shots than him.
Yeah, that's a very interesting what is the age difference between you guys?
About 5 years.
So he's 5 years older than you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't think I know a case of brothers having exact same like styles. Maybe Morris twins in NBA, but yeah, that's very interesting. But they're actually twins. So yeah, was there ever a concrete offer to return to Red Star later in your career, or was that chapter closed?
There was not. I would have. I would have entertained it. I think when I left Zenit, it happened pretty quickly. It was, the season was sort of still going on, and there was a couple situations around in Europe. It was obviously, it came down really. We're talking between Fenerbahce and Milan, and kind of had to make a decision pretty quickly. So I don't know. Like, I wouldn't say Red Star didn't offer. I would just say maybe they just didn't have the opportunity because their season was still going on. So there wasn't. No.
Right. Which game would you say do you remember the most, or moment, I want to say, on the court in your career? And similarly, which ones would you say that you're regretting in terms of a game or a moment?
That's a good question. As far as in my career, the Adriatic playoffs, I'm not just saying it because you guys are in Serbia, but like the Adriatic playoffs for me was probably the biggest moment in my career. Just because that was sort of my breakthrough moment. Like that first game against Partizan at the end of the game when the ball was in my hands, that was sort of my breakthrough moment, I would say, in my career. That game 5 against Budućnost, just everything that was at stake, the home crowd, obviously, you guys know everything that went into that game with fans, and that was one of those games where you walked in and you're literally like, there is no chance we're going to lose this game because of how crazy that atmosphere was. And I think at one point in time, we were winning that game by like 45 points. It was crazy. As far as regrets, that's a really, really good question. I don't know. I mean, I have some regrets early on in my career as far as college. There was my last college game. That I missed a couple shots that I should have made that I hit. I remember I hit front rim on these 2 shots from the top of the key. I mean, I always think back on it, hindsight's 2020 now. It's like those 2 missed shots for me though were crucial. Like, yes, I regret them big time. They also made me a better shooter because I hit front rim. And from then on in my life, I said, you'll never miss front rim again on a game winner, like ever. And truthfully, I don't know if I did. So I missed game winner, but I didn't miss front rim, which is, I can live with myself. I'm not going to lose sleep. So I would say that particular moment is my biggest regret, but it made me a better shooter.
Yeah, it's crazy that you still think about college times, like that was way back.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, I guess another interesting question would be if you have to make ideal starting 5 made up of the players that you shared court with, or what would it be? It doesn't have to be like traditional 1 through 5. You can like put a 4 and a 5 or whatever way you want to do it.
I'll go Kevin Pangos.
Oh.
Shabazz Napier.
Okay.
Alex Poitras.
Okay.
Good. Tough one.
Don't make somebody mad.
What'd you say?
Don't make somebody mad.
probably go into with this one. Jordan Lloyd.
Okay, that's a very good. Well, is it 4 or 5?
Jordan Lloyd. So, am I including myself?
No, without you.
Oh, Jordan Lloyd and Jordan Mickey.
Oh, wow. And who's the coach?
Javi.
Okay, good. That's a very good lineup. I guess you touched upon it earlier. You do follow currently Crvene Zvezde. Do you have any message to the fans in Belgrade? Can they expect you to see you? And then I know you have the business that we talked about earlier, but do you have any immediate or near future plans to come visit? Or
I'd love to. I was looking at the EuroLeague Next Gen about possibly making a trip then. But I was talking to the club about doing like a little shooting clinic for the kids in Belgrade. So hopefully that works out. I'd love to come back and do something with the community and stay involved. I'd love to tie that in with some games for, some Red Star games so I can get there and be again, like immerse myself in that atmosphere. So hopefully it's here in the next season. I'd love to, I was talking to the club about it, so we'll see where that goes. But a message for the fans, like I know things are going, well right now. I know it was a tough game last week, but it's a marathon and you're in a solid situation here. So one game at a time, don't get too high, don't get too low. I know it's, harder, easier said than done, but no, they got a good squad. I think they got all the characteristics to make a Final Four, but don't put the cart before the horse, game by game, and we'll see what happens.
That's a healthy approach.
Bro, I'll never forgive your traveling in a final in the Serbian league because it stressed me out because I'm Partizan fan.
Yeah, that was
that's a running joke, really.
Yeah.
Do you guys do you form in team?
Do people still talk about that in Serbia?
Oh yeah, big time.
Really?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why what he was getting at. It's it's still a topic of conversation. The traveling. Did I guess I have many questions about this. Did you know you traveled when you made it?
Of course. I mean, it was just the weirdest thing because honestly, guys, like I remember getting the ball down by 1, and you see me put my head down, and I'm just like, all right, one more, because honestly, I was ready to get home. I was ready for the off season. And my wife was pregnant at the time, so I'm like, listen, you need to get your ass home. So that's what I'm thinking when I'm about to, when I'm going for the win. Probably played a part in, when Yankovic, it's funny. I actually saw him a couple months ago here at IMG Academy. He was here for another reason, but I actually saw him, believe it or not. And when I didn't really make much of a move, it was like a double crossover, and then he sort of just bit and thought I was going to shoot. And so everything opened up. There wasn't much help side defense. It was me in the hoop, and it was so open, and my eyes got so big, and I'm just like, hey, let's go home, that I just carried the ball and just kept going. And I laid the ball up, and I stood there for a second. I'm like, oh, shit. And then no whistle, no nothing. And I'm like, we got to get the hell out of here. And I knew why the fans were pissed. So I was like, we got to go. And that was a cool one. That was, I know, made a lot of people mad. I know I traveled. I know I did. But that was a cool experience. I remember after that game, we went to Kalemegdan to celebrate with the fans. And then I walked. So I was still living in Skodalia at that time. And I walked from Kalemegdan to Skodalia down Strahica Bana, right? Am I saying it the right way?
Yes, you are.
But there's an ice cream spot right there. I forgot what the English translation is of it, but there's an good ice cream spot in Belgrade right there. And I remember grabbing just a huge ice cream, right? And I'm just holding it, and I got the trophy in my hands, just walking like a mile back home. That was, and the season was over. I was just like, that ice cream tasted really good.
So I'm assuming you basically ran off the court knowing that I got to get out of here on purpose, right? It wasn't like a spur of the moment type thing. You did want to get out of the gym.
I mean, I was going to do that regardless, though, even if I didn't travel. So I was like, listen, these fans are pissed. Like, we got to go. And I was like, let's just get to the locker room. I'm not trying to have a bunch of things thrown at me because that's the Serbian league. They didn't really care what's being thrown. So I'm like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. With that being said, let's look at the coaches you worked with. And if you want to compare and contrast them, whose style worked better, whose style, like how did they differ? You have some great coaches along your career. So I guess what did you pick up from each?
I like Milan. Milan fit that first year, fit being a Red Star coach, and fit my personality because he let his players play and he let his players show his emotion. Like a lot of coaches, they get very emotional, and Milan was very, very even keeled. You felt that him being even keeled, you felt like he trusted his team a little bit more. And we didn't have too complex of an offense. It was your traditional swing, cut from the 45, guy in the corner goes, gets a handoff and a pick and roll. But it's just the pieces fit, and his calmness allowed us to allowed my game to grow because he just let me play basketball. And I became very free, and the chemistry within the team built because he let guys sort of build that chemistry within the sets, within the offense. Xavi, from an X's and O's standpoint, is like a scientist. Like he's hundreds of plays, and you're gonna play 5-on-0 in practice, and it's gonna take an hour straight of 5-on-0, and it worked. And it worked and it worked and it worked. And then he'd add in 3 to 5 plays before a particular game. And then you might think it's hard because the amount of plays to absorb all this information, but you get used to it. He had me playing a very particular role, which I had to change sort of from my time at Red Star to then. Especially that first year, I was your typical, like, your shooter. I sensed that he wanted me to be like JC Carroll, come off the bench. And so I fit that. Like I sort of changed up my mindset to be strictly a shooter. Second year, he had a little more trust in me, and he needed me to handle the ball a little bit more, given our personnel and our team. But there was still a ton of sets. Messina, definitely different than both. Extremely emotional. When you have with him, when the particular style of players are on the court, I will always remember this. I said this. I said this was the easiest the game of basketball had ever been for me. When we had a particular style of players on the court. So my first year in Milan, it was Shabazz. It was, I forgot who was at the 3, but it was Nick Melly and Johannes Voigtman. And because we were all interchangeable, because you just kind of flow with the set and you pick a space on the court. And then the thing why it was hard to game plan for us is because when that ball was swung, I didn't even necessarily know what I was going to do. I was going to look at Nick, or I was going to look at Joe when they had the ball, or I was going to look at Shabazz and say, hey, what are we about to do? And sort of read each other. And it worked. And it worked and it worked and it worked. But with Messina, when the wrong players are on the court, the game can go from the easiest game you've ever played to the hardest game you've ever played. That's sort of the issue. So it's very personnel based, and his style sort of fits a certain personnel. It's just about putting that personnel on the court.
Yeah, that's a very thorough analysis. I do. Would you say Xavi Pascual is known as probably a very hard nosed? Right now, if you're watching Barcelona, they're known for hard nosed defense with him. Would you say that in Zenit there was a more accent on that, or for you personally, on the defensive side of the ball, or no?
Yeah, I think for me, our expectations that first year in Zenit changed right away when we beat FS and we beat Barcelona first 2 games of the year. We didn't have a long bench. We had a good nucleus of 8 guys, and we were in the top 5, 6 for the most of the year. And I think we had 20 wins at the end of the EuroLeague season. Ended up getting the 8th seed with 20 wins. But a lot of it was because it was the right pieces on the court, and we played hard defense. I remember that series against Barcelona. Talk about one of the regrets. I do regret not playing as well as I could have, because I do think we get to the Final Four if I play a little bit better. And FS won the championship that year, and we had swept them pretty easy that year. But I think, I remember being in the locker room before some of those games, and he would just kind of figuratively, he would just say, "Hey, knife at the throat," like this. And I'm like, say no more. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to hear. And I was like, I like that though. It was sort of like, we mean business here. And we had some injuries late in the year, so we were really banged up. Obviously, Barcelona that year was extremely deep, but his style was no nonsense. Like, and I really respected him because the way he carried himself, he was very consistent. He wasn't too high. He'll yell at you. Wasn't too high, wasn't too low. Never, ever, ever told me not to take a shot. Like, I could take whatever shot, and he would draw up a million plays for me. I could take whatever shot. He never looked at me and never had any emotion after any shot, whether it went in, whether it didn't go in. And if I made a shot, he would literally run a play for me every single time until I missed a shot. And that's what I was like, I really respected his approach. Yeah, it favored me a little bit at times, but I respected how consistent he was with his approach.
Yeah, and of course, I did kind of touched upon Xavi being bought back in Barcelona, which made me ask you, do you still keep up with the EuroLeague right now at this moment this season? And if so, what are your current thoughts about early season, potential contenders and maybe teams that we should watch out for, and overall take on the current season?
I have kept up with it. I would say maybe not as much as what I was playing. Do I have an extremely strong opinion about who's going to win it this year? No. I do think Barca's a team to look out for, obviously, with my former coach there and knowing his style and obviously knowing their personnel. I like them. And you always got your teams like Campana really bring it together, with the players that they have. Obviously, Ataman has had some success in his career. So you always got to watch out for them. But I'm obviously partial towards Red Star. I'm partial towards them. I feel like it's been a minute and they're due for a run in the playoffs. And so I'm going to, I'd put my chips in with them. I feel like Obradovic, I like the way he coaches. I think, being a former Red Star guy himself, I think as long as, you can keep emotions at check and you really use that home base as an advantage, as the advantage that it is, it's the best. It's the toughest court to play in the world. I would go with Red Star. I think it's wide open for them.
Wow, interesting. Fans will love to hear that. Do you have a particular player from Red Star or anywhere else in Europe that you really like watching? Who would cause you to turn a game on?
I like Jordan Ora. I like his game. It's funny, we actually worked out a couple times way back in the day. His dad lived in Buffalo, or he's from Buffalo, so when I was going to college there, our fathers knew each other, and when he was really, really small, we worked out together a couple times. It's funny. Like some of my former teammates, I love Kevin Punter's style. I love his consistency, really respect the way he can shoot the basketball, how he can score it efficiently. That's probably the person I respect the most, just because I really admire how he came into Red Star that year and produced straight away. Obviously, the situation at Olympiacos, he didn't get his head down. That situation made him a better player. So I've always respected him.
So you mentioned Kevin Punter, and that's a great intro for the next question, which would be, you obviously know what he did, right? And change the colors and switch over to Partizan with Željko, Obradovic, and had 3 fruitful years there. Was there ever an opportunity, and what are your thoughts about that? If you is there ever a possibility for you to do the same and follow along the line, and would you ever even do it?
So the situation came about because I know some people weren't too thrilled about me having an offer from Partizan. So the situation was, So there, I remember the war had broke out in Russia, right? In a sort of like COVID, where we're gonna play Barcelona tomorrow night. And I remember we were gonna have a full roster for the first time the whole year, right? So you're locked in on this, and we're gonna win the EuroLeague. 24 hours later, all the foreigners are at my house thinking, "Hey, when you out of here?" Sort of like that. And no one knew the future. No one knew. I had a 2-year contract at Zenit. And to be quite honest, the way things were, I mean, I might have been there for the rest of my career because things were working with Xavi. I was, we were doing very well. We very well could have won the EuroLeague that year. So, not knowing what the future held, I forgot how old I am. I'm 31, and you don't know when you're going to get paid again. Like, no one knows. There's so many question marks. So I remember taking my family to Finland. We had to drive from St. Petersburg to Finland, and I'm at the airport, and Misto texts me. He's calling me right now, and he says, "Hey, we don't know what's going to happen, but Partizan is interested. This is the year they were in the Euro Cup with Obradovic. I think it was Obradovic's first year. He said they're interested, and they possibly would take on your contract." So I said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Of course I'm interested. I want to play basketball. Like, I want to. Plus, I have a family to support. Like, of course, like I will if I can go play basketball and I can make." And they can pick up my contract right now because at that moment, I'm at the airport in Finland to fly home. To just be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't even know if I'm coming back to Zenit. And I have a family to support and I'm making a solid amount of money. So it's like, you want to make that money and you want to play basketball. And I want to further my career. So I thought about it. I'm like, man, if I can help Partizan win a Euro Cup and go to the EuroLeague, that probably would be pretty good for my career. So I said, yeah, I would be open to it. But then he had, Miško got back to me and basically said that Zenit wasn't going to let me go. So it wasn't about betraying Red Star. It was about like, hey, I need to keep playing basketball and obviously, make money as well.
Interesting. Yeah. We weren't sure when I asked this question. I wasn't sure if it's a rumor or if it's actually true. So thank you for actually confirming that. Which is very interesting. Did you have any conversations with Željko, or did it get to that point or not?
No, it was so quick. It was like, I kid you not, it was like 10 minutes. It was like, I'm literally in the airport about to board the plane to go to Miami from Finland, from Helsinki. He said, would you be interested? I said, yes. He called me back within like 10 minutes and says, Zadar will let you go. That was literally it.
It's crazy how quick things move in
yes,
these.
Very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick.
So I guess at what point in the season was that? I forget when the war broke. That was it like a half a season mark? Was it a third of a season?
I think first week in March.
Oh, okay.
I want to say it was the first week in March, like late February, early March.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Last but not least, I have a final question for you. If you have any message to the fans of the Red Star or people in Serbia who really did enjoy watching you play all these years, I guess now is the time to do it.
No, like I said, like Red Star always is going to hold a special place in my heart. Like what it meant for my career, obviously to get back to the EuroLeague with them. I'm always going to be loyal to them. I'm always going to be biased towards the team. I'm always going to say that's my favorite team to watch in Europe, just because I also understand the pride that the club, that the fans, that the country has in the game of basketball. So I've always wanted to, I know I talked about in the past, whenever I'd have kids, I want to take them back to Red Star. That's something I still, now having those kids to bring them back, like that's something that I want to do. I want to inspire them, given the fan base, given the pride that the fan base has. I want to bring them back to inspire my boys, to inspire them to say, hey, Daddy played here. We have a special affection for this place. I do feel that. And I've always, for the rest of my life, I'll want to stay attached to Red Star. And whether it's through doing shooting clinics, through whether it's doing, just appearances at games, whatever I can do to help them out. Because I think it's a brand, it's a very, very strong brand that can really stretch its wings, especially here in America. There's a big Serbian population here in America. So whatever they would need from me, I'm here. I always love the team. I always appreciate everything they did for me. And I've always, for sure, always loved the fans.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Billy, for wonderful little talk. I hope we didn't take too much of your time and didn't bore you to death. But yeah, we really appreciate your time and the interview that we did. And thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
Yes. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks. You guys too. See ya.
Bilo je to novo izdanje našeg podcasta. Nadam se da ste uživali u zaista sjajnom gostu, Billy u Beronu, možda po mom skromnom mišljenju najboljim šuteru koji sam ja gledao od svoga života na ovoj našoj sceni na Balkanu. To je bilo to, do sljedećeg viđenja.
Hvala na pažnji i prijatelji.
FLOUTKAST, kad košarka priča.